Good morning, everyone. What a beautiful day to make polluters pay, right? My name is Senator Caroline Menjivar, and I represent District 20, the communities of the San Fernando Valley and the city of Burbank. And I am so excited to announce some breaking legislation here in California. In the next hour, I will be presenting in the Environmental Quality Committee SB 1497, a polluters pay initiative. The Polluters Pay Climate Cost Recovery of 2024 with co-author Senator Henry Stern and Assemblymember Laura Friedman will further hold polluters accountable for the damage they have caused. It's very timely that we are announcing SB 1497 today because a lot of our community members are gearing up for Earth Day events just this weekend. Earth Day is a time when each of us is called upon to remember the importance of protecting our environment and to commit ourselves to take action. But we as individuals should not be the only ones to heed that call. We need polluters to commit themselves as well, because currently all California taxpayers are footing the bill for the environmental damages the top fossil fuel polluters are inflicting on our state. Just a couple of years in the budget for the 21-22, we had to allocate around $9.3 billion to respond to climate-related instances. And a recent study of climate impacts in the communities that I represent for LA County has showed that we would need to put aside $12.5 billion over 15 years to address the climate harms and disasters just for that area. SB 1497 would deliver on a key promise I made when I ran for office and for my communities, that I was coming to Sacramento to make sure our polluters paid their fair share, because this approach is fair and reasonable compared to what they're doing to our environment. Because we know fossil fuels account for nearly 90% of all CO2 emissions and more than 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions. We know from published scientific research using companies' self-reported data that a relatively small number of very large companies bear the greatest responsibilities for the climate crisis. As the state continues to face a multi-billion-dollar deficit, and we'll see that in the out years as well, we need a comprehensive study to quantify the staggering burden fossil fuel polluters have imposed on taxpayers so they can be held accountable for their share of the financial burden. So SB is looking to do a couple of things. It's going to protect our state and communities from ravages of climate crisis through these actions. First, we're going to require the first ever comprehensive statewide cost study led by our CalEPA to quantify the climate damages caused to the state of California. We would then have them define the responsible parties of those who did businesses in the years between 2000 and 2020 in California via extraction, production, combustion, and sale of fossil fuels. And we're looking for individuals who are exerting emissions of more than 1 billion metric tons. Next, we're going to assess an initial fee on responsible parties to pay for the cost study and administrative costs of the program. This is an approach that is not going to be on the backs of taxpayers as it currently is right now. We're going to then direct CalEPA to oversee the program, assess and collect fees from responsible parties, proportional to their emissions from, again, the 20-year period of 2000 to 2020, and consider and allocate expenditures from the resulting fund to address climate damage to projects implementing state climate policy. We want that to go into a fund and then to be allocated for projects that are going to address what is happening right now. This bill is a creative revenue generator during a budget deficit. It's time for our state to make polluters pay to ensure a safer climate future for everyone. And there should be no one having any pity for these entities who are making billions and billions of profits off of the backs of our communities. Joining me today is our bill sponsor and an array of advocates that are side by side with this bill and my initiative to ensure we get this across the finish line. Among them is our bill sponsor, the Center for Biological Diversity, along with, as you can see, people from environmental justice advocates, community members who are deeply concerned about the safety and financial consequences of pollution to Californians. So you're going to hear from some scientists, some geniuses, some experts in this field. So with that, I'd like to turn over to our first speaker, Cassie Seo is the director of the Climate Law Institute at Center for Biological Diversity and the sponsor of SB 1497.
Thank you so much, Senator Menjivar, for introducing SB 1497. On behalf of our over 200,000 members and supporters in California, the Center for Biological Diversity is a proud bill sponsor. Thank you so much also to the more than 100 organizations in support, many of whom are here or will be here later. And we're here today because Californians are currently bearing the entire burden of the devastation caused by fossil fuel pollution. And it's time for some of the world's largest fossil fuel polluters to pay their fair share. Deadly heat waves, destructive wildfires, cycles of droughts and storms. It's all getting worse and more costly. Earlier this year, just one storm killed 2 people and cost $11 billion in damage. Last year, a series of atmospheric rivers killed 22 people and cost $34 billion. Extreme fire weather is increasing, fueling catastrophe. Californians are paying the cost in lives and dollars, while fossil fuel polluters rake in record profits. Instead of polluters lining their pockets, SB 1497 sets up a climate cost recovery program based on the polluters pay principle. Some of the world's largest corporations will pay for the damage caused by their emissions between 2000 and 2020. A small number of very large companies. Those funds will be put towards common sense climate solutions. These polluters, the carbon majors, are some of the wealthiest corporations on the planet. Between 2000 and 2020, Exxon made almost $500 billion in profits. And in recent years, the profits are even higher, $114 billion for Exxon alone. These companies have plenty of money to help pay for the damage that their oil, gas, and coal has caused to California. Instead, they've spent their profits on disinformation campaigns to lie about the climate science, to greenwash, and to block alternatives to their deadly products. This bill is based on strict liability. It is separate from and complementary to the various landmark lawsuits brought to hold fossil fuel polluters accountable for their wrongdoing. This bill is based on basic fairness. It's only fair and right that the corporations pay for the devastation they've caused and to speed the solutions that are available today to give Californians back the brighter future that we deserve. For California, for our wildlife, for our future, California lawmakers can't pass SB 1497 quickly enough. So thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your remarks. Our next speaker is Rael Mason from the California Environmental Justice Alliance. Rael, come on up.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Rael Mason, and I am the Policy Manager for the California Environmental Justice Alliance, or CEJA. CEJA is a statewide, community-led coalition committed to advancing environmental and climate justice. Our members organize within low-income communities of colors, near refineries, power plants, ports, and other fossil fuel facilities, addressing a range of issues including poor air quality, incompatible land use, and dirty energy. Fossil fuel companies have waged a campaign of denial, delay, and disinformation for decades, at the known expense of a stable climate and the health of Californians. Their innumerable lies and cover-ups have resulted in ongoing climate disasters and have imposed billions of dollars of costs on residents. Taxpayers should not continue to subsidize their bad behavior. We should not have to foot the bill alone when climate polluters reap massive profits and use these profits to pollute our democracy. This is why our alliance is so grateful to Senator Menjivar for introducing SB 1497. This bill is a critical step for holding fossil fuel companies accountable. It is imperative that climate polluters pay their fair share to address our budget deficit and support a just transition for community health, environmental improvement, and building a healthier economy. We commend Senator Menjivar for her bold leadership on the Polluters Pay Climate Cost Recovery Act. This is a must-pass bill. We stand united in building a climate movement that demands more accountability for climate polluters while ensuring that funds prioritize our communities and support frontline residents who bear the brunt of the climate crisis. Thank you.
Thanks, Raquel. Thank you so much, Raquel. Next, I'm not a scientist. I'm here to be the person to introduce this bill, and I've learned so much, but the person who has like the expert background on this is the next speaker. And I want to thank Dr. Tripati for being with us. She is Dr. and I apologize, Radna Tripati is a professional at the Institute of Environment and Sustainability. She has a long list of titles because she's that smart. And atmospheric and oceanic sciences, but most importantly, she is the director of the Center of Diverse Leadership in Science at my alma mater, UCLA. Her work documenting historical changes in climate, ice sheets, oceans, the water cycle, and carbon dioxide levels has been cited over 3,000 times, and she has 66 publications. So with that, Doctor, come on and give us your wisdom.
Thank you. I'm so grateful for the leadership of Senator Menjivar for authoring SB 1497, and I'm also grateful to the co-sponsors and supporters. Now, my name is Arna Trapa. I'm a climate scientist and professor at UCLA. The center that the senator mentioned is focused on green workforce development in California. We work with community members, community college students, four-year university students. I also am the co-author of the 5th National Climate Assessment for the United States that reported the consensus and state of the science last year. What we showed was that we know, without a doubt, that there is consensus on the pervasive and unequal damages from climate change. The U.S. now experiences, on average, every 3 weeks, a $1 billion disaster. In California, due to climate change alone, our fires are burning explosively fast. In the last 25 years, burn areas have increased by a factor of 5 compared to the previous 25 years. Entire towns have been destroyed recently in California with excesses of $10 billion in cost for any single disaster and an array of health impacts and lives lost. Heat-related hospitalizations for seniors in our state and heat deaths are increasing. In Orange County alone, over the next 25 years, it's projected that due to coastal flooding from sea level rise and climate change, homeowners with homes totaling more than $8 billion are at risk, and that's just one county. We see that billions of dollars every year in the agricultural industry, water resources in places like Tulare and King County are also at risk. We see with climate change that workplace accidents in California are going up. From construction to agriculture, on hotter days, more people report to CalOSHA that they're injured. Now, using well-established attribution science, California can directly connect fossil fuel emissions to climate change hazards and damages. We couldn't do this 50 years ago, but the state of the science from the last 2 decades shows that we can link more extreme heat waves, increased wildfire, intensified drought, and this array of climate change impacts through peer-reviewed consensus science that's been used in hundreds of studies, including by the National Climate Assessment and by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. We can answer questions like, how much did emissions increase climate hazards, like wildfire area burns? How much did emissions make extreme weather events, like heat waves, more likely to occur or more severe? And what are the costs associated with those emissions? In short, using peer-reviewed scientific approaches based on attribution science, CalEPA can conduct a climate cost study due to this bill, and they can assess an evidence-based proportional fee to responsible fossil fuel emitters who are causing devastating and escalating damages to our state. We urgently need to pass this bill because of the spiraling costs that we're bearing, and we can't afford to bear these alone. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Without this action, like I mentioned, taxpayers in California in disadvantaged communities will continue to shoulder the entire burden of the damages. Similar bills have been introduced in Congress, New York, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Vermont. But California right now has the opportunity to be the first one to pass it out. And we all know as California goes, so does the nation. We want to tout always that California is a leader in environmental justice. This is a great opportunity to put that title to the test and see if it holds. And it should hold. While SB 1497, with SB 1497, we have that opportunity to be the first in the nation. So now I invite you all to join us as we go to the Environmental Quality Committee, where for the first time ever, we will present this bill here in California. It'll be the first policy committee hearing, and we need your help to help it get out. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll be walking over to 1021 O Street, room 1200. Join us to make everybody in that committee know that it's time to make polluters pay.